If you want to make like real money, you want to make $500,000 a year, you want to make $1 million a year, you want to make several $1 million a year, you are not going to do that working 4 hours a day. So like this is actually the real issues with AI. Like honestly, is people get like this like false confidence and stuff like this.
Oh
like,
yeah.
I saw there was like a headline. There was like this big fire at some utility building that was somewhere. I think it was in like the South. And basically the story behind it was that there was an apprentice that was rewiring something and they were unsure about what to do. And they had a master there that told them like how to do the configuration. And they instead decided to do what ChatGPT told them to do. And it created a fire that burned down the whole building. So there we go.
What if ChatGPT meant to do that?
What's going on, guys? Welcome to Collecting Keys. I'm Mike DeHaan here with my co-host Dan Austin and Dylan Cook. And you know what, Dan? It's actually a valid point, right? They always think that AI is going to be like Skynet taking over. What if instead AI is just so malicious that it is slowly spreading like false information and bad stuff intentionally because it knows that it will eventually just defeat humans that way and they'll defeat themselves. Because they can live forever, you know? Like it's not like it has time that it's going against.
This is like that Marvel movie, the Avengers movie, where the one thing that takes over and is a I'm not a nerd. I don't watch Marvel movies, but
the Marvel Avengers movie where the one thing takes over. That's not like all of them.
The Jarvis thing. I don't know. If you're a nerd, you can correct us on our social media.
The problem I have with the Marvel sort of stuff is there's no actual like danger. Right? Like, you know, they're going to win in the end. Right? And even though they had the movie where like Spider-Man dies, they're coming back in the next one. Don't pretend like you didn't know that was going to happen.
Does the good guys do they ever lose on any movie?
In movies, no, but
they'll like kill one of them. But it's really because, you know, ScarJo decided that she didn't like the contract arrangement. So Disney's like, fine, we're going to kill your ass in the next movie. So that way you can't come back anymore.
Yeah.
But it's not like, you know, usually that's all over the headlines beforehand. So you know it's going to happen. It's not like a surprise.
You know, good guys always win. That's what the history books say.
They do win.
They do. The books. Yeah, they get to write the books. They get to decide.
That's why America has so many good history books.
I know. That's why we forget about so many of the horrible things we've done.
I read them for entertainment.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I'll tell you what, that is like a great conversation if you have like an older relative that's very pro-America, just like say shit like that. Like when I was home for summer, we'll get to real estate after this. Over the summer, I was back at my in-laws' place. Father-in-law, awesome person. I really, really enjoy hanging out with him. But he's also one of those guys that like, when you're like hanging out, it's like, let's watch a movie. It's like, let's watch like Black Hawk Down.
Great movie.
You know, yeah, it was a great movie for sure. Great action movie. And I was like,
led a lot of people to kill more people
for sure. And I was like, totally, let's completely celebrate an atrocity that the United States committed. And he got so butthurt by that. Like I made like a kind of a snide comment because I do that with him all the time because it's funny. And it like ruined his day.
Well, that's a bad example. That's not a good. You should use the Vietnam War. Like that's a good example.
Well, the funny thing is what he ended up watching was Full Metal Jacket instead.
That's really good.
Which is also a great movie. Same problem.
Here's what you need to realize, though, Mike, is if we didn't do it, someone would have done it way worse. We're doing it in a better way.
Well, of course, and like people do it all the time still to this day. Like that happens. Stuff like that
it's probably happening right now in Africa. I'm pretty sure they're actually ethnically cleansing like 1,000 people right now.
Yeah, it happens all over the world. It has all the time.
It's like when they release the videos of them shooting the drug cartels in the ocean. You've seen that lately?
Cool. $1 million missile just to some boat.
Did you see the video of them boarding the oil tanker yesterday?
I did actually. I did see that. Yeah.
I mean, I was like, I don't really know the details on it, but that video is pretty dope. With like how
is it the Coast Guard? I haven't watched any of this stuff. Is it the Coast Guard doing it?
I don't know, dude. Like it's fully armed guys that are jumping out of a helicopter onto the boat.
Well, the Coast Guard, that's what the Coast Guard, you know, this is like their one time they get like a claim to fame. They're like, we're doing some cool shit, man.
I thought the Coast Guard was like you like go into the ocean to like save boats and shit.
No, they actually do go after like normally that's what they're doing is going after like drug boats and they do the other stuff too. But,
really?
Yeah, they're not just a rescue mission.
I guess
but they don't ever get any fame for it.
Yeah, and that's what are you talking about? They did that movie with Ashton Kutcher in it, where he was like a diver that went out there.
That's an old one.
That's an old one.
That one movie, dude.
The one Coast Guard movie they ever made. Yeah. But I thought that was Top Gun, though. Are those guys not Coast Guard? They seem gay enough to be Coast Guard. I don't know.
They're Navy.
Navy. Right. that one was for you, Dan. But all right, guys. Well, we got all kinds of stuff to talk about this week. The big one is the Fed cut rates yesterday, 25 points.
God. Are we making money now?
Yeah, so we're all going to get rich. It's funny, a bunch of borrowers for lending company reached out, wanted to know how much DSCR rates went down. I'd tell them that they do not follow the Fed rates, so 0. But then, Dylan, you actually sent over that clip, which I thought was pretty interesting, of Jerome Powell just straight saying that, like, hey, the housing market is kind of screwed. Like, I don't know what we're going to do. And he's like, just making some 25-point adjustments on the rates not going to fix anything.
Straight from the horse's mouth. I was kind of like, usually they're pretty guarded in what they say, and he pretty much let it on the table. Like, hey, this is kind of cooked. Like,
well, like a couple of months, was it a couple months ago? He said maybe it was a few months ago. He was like, I think potentially, maybe possibly that what the Fed policy overinflated the housing market.
No,
he said that. He said that like a few months ago.
Yeah, he's like, our actions
may have
caused higher prices than we originally intended or whatever. Yeah. And like the post-mortem on some of their decisions, for them to admit it is a lot.
That's
huge.
Yeah. I mean, the funny thing is I mean, I'm sure it's always been this way. I feel like it's just really accelerated with the internet and the rate of information. There's so many, like for as long as I've been alive, the government makes decisions that everyone fundamentally knows will have negative consequences down the line. And we just kind of like accept it, right? And then the next, they just kick the can. And then the next administration has to make their stupid decision that's going to lead to more problems on top of the other problem. And that's how we get into so many of the issues that we have now with like a failing school system. We have the housing market issue. We have the affordability issue. We have all these different minimum wage situations that are going on everywhere that are screwing up a bunch of stuff. Like there's
a lot of the stuff and that you're going to touch on like a soapbox I'd like to get on, but it's basically like people like to blame current or recent past administrations. A lot of this stuff can be tied to really the 70s because that's when we came off the gold standard. That's 50 years ago.
I know.
But this stuff goes in decade cycles. Like we are paying for some of that now. And you could argue that because of the exponential increase in the dollar, like 80% of dollars have been minted since 2020, right? Yeah. That we are getting near that exponential place. Like it's really hard to kick the can down the road, and it has diminishing returns, right? The diminishing returns of kicking the can is getting harder and harder.
Yeah, for sure. Or like the delay that you kind of get from it, it just happens so much faster.
Yep.
And
go ahead, Mike.
No, go for it.
Well, I was going to say, so like they basically said that they're going to start expanding the balance sheet on top of the 25 basis point cut yesterday, and at a tune of about $40 billion a month, so around $500 billion a year. To put that in comparison, like the 2008 TARP, the Toxic Asset Relief Program that everyone thought was going to cause hyperinflation, was $800 billion.
Wow.
So our run rate is 60% of that. And obviously COVID was trillions. But my point being is like, I think this is just like, it'll be 40 billion now. They're going to see how it reacts, but I wouldn't be surprised in 2026, really Q2.
40 billion a month.
That's what it is. Like, I think it's going to be more than that. Like going
you think
forward.
it's going to go up from that?
Yeah.
So they're going to buy 40 billion a month in mortgages.
No, they're only buying T-bills. They're only buying short-term debt. They're not even buying mortgage-backed securities anymore.
Oh, so no MBS. Okay.
No, so the composition of their balance sheet is also changing.
Yeah, all that MBS is being bought by overseas banks.
Yeah.
Right? Like a lot of the same people that are buying the DSCR stuff are buying the mortgage-backed securities.
They believe in the American dream, dude. They just want to own some houses.
Well, see, and that's the thing actually that's very interesting is there is a fundamental belief in American people, but not the American institution. And that's one of the reasons that you're seeing very aggressive DSCR rates is because they acknowledge that there are people that have money, that there are people in the United States that can do good business and are lendable, but they don't trust the American institution to do well, right? The government.
Yeah. So to your back up your point, Mike, a lot of treasury issuance, especially the long end, is relied upon basically third parties, which is other foreign nations. on net, they have not bought enough of the treasuries that's been issued since 2014, and it's less and less now.
Wow.
So out of all of the bills and treasuries that are issued, we need China to buy them. We need Saudi Arabia to buy them. But they don't. And who steps in to buy the difference? It's the Federal Reserve. And like that has been a more and more portion of their
so now
of the assets that they buy. Yeah. So I don't know what that's going to look like, but I mean, all of this has even changed in 2008, like how the Fed funds rate worked. That wasn't a thing prior to 2008. Like the Fed had control, but they don't control the overnight rate that goes to JP Morgan, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs. And sorry, I'm ranting a little bit here, but the schematic or the semantics are when they buy these 40 billion a month of treasuries or whatever, they're adding to the balance sheets of those primary dealers, but it's up to those primary dealers to actually lend that money into the economy. So even though they're increasing their balance sheet, it's up to the public sector to actually buy those, to actually issue more loans. But if they're getting paid 3.5%, 4% to buy from the Federal Reserve and just lend overnight, they have no incentive to lend to the consumer unless that they're lending at 6, 7, 8%.
Yeah.
So I don't see how this most recent action, everyone sees this and like, money printer go burr. We're all going to start making money. Like assets are going to rip. I actually don't think that's the case, at least not until we get a much bigger print level.
Yeah. Yeah. I really think that especially real estate, where the potential value right now is you're just basically holding something that's kind of like a steady value, right? Whereas people are losing money, and as people are spending money on their day-to-day life, they're making less money. Inflation has gone up, right? Their gap between what their savings are and what they actually have to spend just to survive is going to get smaller. So people will have less money, but your house will still relatively maintain.
Yeah, I have an interesting anecdote on this affordability thing. Like seems like to be an issue, and I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with the American people, because this time of year, it's always hectic with the holidays, and there is no lack of consumers spending on holiday gifts and holiday whatever they spend their money on. My wife was telling me she was at Target this week, and literally just like shelves are like bare, right? And maybe there's a supply chain issue there, but people are just consuming over and over and over and continuously, yet there's supposedly this affordability issue, which I believe exists. But I'm like, where?
Well, that's also a very small sample size.
Is it a prioritization of your capital?
Yeah.
Because I do think the American people have an issue with that.
We went to Texas Roadhouse last week and it was packed. Not that that's like an anecdote.
Yeah,
but,
well, those are very small sample sizes though, right? That's like maybe a couple hundred people in the greater economic thing, right?
Well, and Dan probably lives in a affluent area.
I live in Spokane, bro. It's a bunch of poor people.
Yeah, so Spokane, I would say, is actually probably a pretty good representation of how most places are, because
it's right in the middle.
Because like consumer items, restaurants, things like that are expensive here for sure. Like
we're like
expensive.
The fifth least affordable state. Like we're like the fifth most expensive state in the country now.
Yeah. So like that stuff's very expensive. Houses are generally affordable if you look at compared to some of the larger markets. The income here though is not awesome on average. And so I would say that Spokane's probably like a good general view of like what a lot of places are probably like that aren't like Austin's working class sort of town.
We don't have a boom bust cycle.
Do you know what your medium like income is versus the national average?
So the median income per household here, like in Spokane, is like $70,000.
That seems pretty on par with a median. Like,
it's like right on the money. Average. Yeah, it's pretty average. But like when you're comparing it to things like Target or restaurants or whatever, like that's like a significantly smaller sample size.
Yes.
You know?
What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Because like 20% of Spokane did not go to Target.
Right. Maybe. I don't know that.
No, they did it.
Physically couldn't have.
They couldn't. There wasn't 40,000 people that went through Target. Like mathematically, that did
I understand
not
that, but this seems to be a thing that pops up every year is like this affordability issue, but the American people keep consuming.
Well, Dan, next time you see this, I want you to take a head count. I was like, how old do you think these people are? And the reason I say that is because if they have a 30-year mortgage that they got like 10 to 20 years ago, like
there might be some of that. There might be some of that. And my point in bringing this whole thing up is like, where is the affordability issue? Because I could tell you in Washington State where the affordability, we have rising taxes that are really actually hurting people. We have wages that are stagnating. Like we don't have it's just expensive. Like Mike said, food is really expensive here for some reason. Gas is like really expensive, which is, you know, a big chunk of money for people.
The reason food is really expensive here is because Washington State made the law that all of the tipped workers have to get paid minimum wage. So basically most places, if you're a tipped employee, you make less than minimum wage. Right. So now we have like all the servers, like you go out to eat, those servers are making like $18-$19 an hour.
Yeah. Plus
the tips. And that just goes straight off the profitability of the restaurant, which is already like at a 3% profitability if
they're
it's lucky.
Super low margins.
Plus
like
our
3
business,
to 5%.
our business tax sucks.
Our B&O tax.
Like,
we have a B&O tax in Washington that takes a 1% tax off the top line revenue.
Right.
Oh my God.
That's why you have to like pay what, like $25 for a hamburger here.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I hear Mike basically, you know, reconciling that these taxes are bad for small businesses.
Of course they are. They're horrific for small businesses.
Well, definitely in Washington, the way Washington sets it up, like you should have to pay something, right, to be participating in the community. But Washington definitely has it set up a little bit ass backwards, and their claim to fame has always been that we don't have an income tax, which is great. Like that is good, but they do tag it on in other spots, and so it just hurts. The restaurant is like a really quintessential small business because fundamentally, like that's something any American can really do, right? You have to learn how to cook. Like if you have a skill there, you can open restaurants, a low barrier to entry, but it's really hard to keep them here. But I would say this in turn, we do have some really good restaurants because to make it in this business, you have to have really quality food. But you're going to drop $100, $150 to go out to dinner with your spouse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, this wasn't on today's agenda, but do you guys want to talk about like this proposal to abolish property taxes?
I saw that. Was that in Florida?
Florida. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Florida's been talking about that forever.
But they changed it to like it's only senior citizens or like you have to be a certain income threshold or something.
And it's like only homesteads, so it wouldn't work for second homes or like any sort of
so it's still like 70% of Florida because they're all old people down there.
Well, that's the thing. People are like everyone's going to move here and have their home here now, so real estate's going to go up. But they were also talking about adding a state income tax instead. Which would be interesting because that would be a
honestly,
pretty big
would still be better for the retirees.
Dude, property taxes freaking kill you. Like just from my own rental, it's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy,
dude. I got a letter literally yesterday of my escrows for one of my properties, and I have dropped the rents. I used to rent these units for $1,700. I'm now trying to get them rented for $1,400. Okay. And so I have one empty, so I'm down $300 a month in rent. I tried to sell the property this year, was not able to do it. I dropped my price. I'm not trying to sell like $100,000. Didn't get any offers. The triplex. It's a good property. It's just like not an asset that's super desirable right now. So I've had the property value come down. I've had the rental rate come down. My taxes have gone up. Right.
Of course, taxes always go up.
Doesn't make any sense at all.
You should try, Mike, is you should actually try to petition that. Be like, I can prove you that my rents are low. I mean, they'll probably tell you to fuck off, but
no, I'm going to because especially on this one, it's definitely an overtaxed property, but you know, that's the taxes are killer. Like when I bought this property and when I refinanced it back in 2021, I used to cash flow $2,500 a month on this thing. Right. Yeah. I now have not made any money on this property in the last 2 years. I've actually lost money because the taxes increased so much. It just ate the whole thing.
And the problem is like, go ahead.
I would say there's people that also bought homes 2021 at these super low rates that get these tax assessments and they get priced out of their homes because they were getting through on these razor thin debt to income ratios, and all of a sudden their taxes increase $500 a month. And all these people move out because they can't afford their monthly payment.
Yeah, that happens.
Oh yeah, I bet I pay between the whole portfolio. I bet I pay close to $100,000 a year in property taxes. But the problem is 70% of that probably goes to the school systems, and the public school systems here suck.
Really?
Yeah. So like, what do you?
That sucks. Ours is awesome. They just voted in like you're not allowed to talk about gay stuff in the school.
That's surprising for
did you see that, Mike?
I did see that. Yeah.
No. Where our school district is less like. I guess it'd be more conservative, I would say, where we live. Probably.
So we're the one school district we're in is like they're the separate one. Like they definitely are doing policies that excite the rich Christian families that live up in this part of town.
It's their customer base.
They are shameless and like they will like, oh yeah, we will do whatever you want us to do, so you keep voting for us to get more money.
Oh,
Well, they're
100%.
probably on the board,
why
right? They have their
property taxes go up.
donors, like
Yeah.
all this kind
We
of
also
stuff.
have
The
really high
principal
property
lives over
taxes in our area.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
so.
like they're doing something right. The principal
Yeah.
lives in $1 million house. Like what should
Teachers
go for me?
teachers in Washington make money, dude.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
they're doing all right. Yeah, but yeah, that you're right, Dylan. A lot of property taxes. This is where back to the main point of like bringing it up with Florida, where I think it would be stupid is because there's a lot of old people in Florida, and they don't give a shit about school districts, as do you know the baby boomer way, right? And so like, why would they care if they're going to strip out school district funding so that they could have cheap property taxes? And I think to me, it's there's a lot of political stuff here because they're just trying to say leave New York and come to Florida, which is probably, my guess would be Florida's immigration is probably most heavily impacted by New Yorkers, because that's like the highest densities, like New York City and stuff like that, coming south, and that's kind of the notorious place that they go, where like the West Coast Washington people go to Scottsdale, like that's the thing, right? But they don't have that for New Yorkers, and so I feel like a lot of that's just like, we'll do whatever we can just to be assholes and get people from New York to come here.
It's kind of principled on that.
You know what I mean? Like,
Totally.
I feel like
It's a combination
like,
of being a baby boomer and being from New York. I mean,
right? Yeah, exactly, dude. It's just like I think it's kind of a silly way, because the property taxes do, and it isn't, in my opinion, it's important to have some level of property taxes if you're going to use public school systems and public systems within your community, within your designated area. If you're not going to use those things, then yeah, dude, whatever, dude, go somewhere else. You don't have to use them. Pay those property taxes.
The completely anti-tax position people have, I never fully understand, because I don't understand where they think that like a lot of the stuff that your taxes actually do go towards, like where that money's supposed to come from. Right. Thinking about like general utilities, right? Like city water, road maintenance, are we supposed to like have
fire departments, like all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, are we supposed to have like privatized fire departments? How do they make money?
That'd be
like they
that'd be dope. I'd be a firefighter then.
And they have a fucking square, and you got to like tap your card for if they're gonna pay to like save your house.
Well, you and I would have a fire department if that was the case.
Dan's over there like setting fires to some of his own properties.
Yeah, no, it's like going to the hospital. You just don't get told. You get a bill afterwards, and it bankrupts you.
Yeah,
but hey, your house didn't burn down that bad. We may have accidentally killed you, but
there's so many people that are so diehard, like all tax is theft, and I don't know if they understand how many things your taxes actually do pay for.
Yeah, it's just the allocation of those taxes. It's the bureaucracy is notorious for being awful with the money that they get.
Right.
Hell, the mayor of Cincinnati just got alleged that his car got repoed twice.
Nice.
Really?
Yeah. And so like, how do you got that can't even handle his own car payments in charge of a multi-million-dollar budget? Like that kind
and
of
politicians are notorious for that, right? Not being the smartest people.
It's just that.
Yeah, I am. I would say that the allocation is the only thing that would ever frustrate me. And I think about things like, oh yeah, let's go make Dick Cheney super rich and go to the Middle East and spend trillions of dollars of tax. Which there's a really. I was listening to this documentary about this, and the amount of money that was spent during like our generation on the Iraq and Afghanistan war and other wars associated with that is actually like, you can look at inflation and you can look at all the financial issues and like how much money was printed to pay for this. And guess what? It's about the same amount of money that they spent on the war. So it's like, they really just turned on the printer to pay for this war, which is really for, honestly, in my opinion, certain people to get, ingratiate themselves with this money. And so I think that allocation of stuff like that, and I know people use the like social services as a hot button topic. It's like, oh man, look at all these lazy people. And yeah, there are definitely a lot of lazy people on social services, 100%. But it's like, what are you going to do there? I mean, there's no good way to manage it. I don't have a good way to manage it.
Well, are you a Raytheon board member? Like, it's a revolving door of people that go from like those kind of like companies to people in government officials. The problem with like the federal stuff is like, we don't have a say as taxpayers. It just happens, right? The act of Congress, like, we're going to spend this money. At least in the state level, there is some voting to it, or like municipality.
You at least have an opportunity.
Yeah. What talking about like public and private, what are your guys' views on these Trump accounts?
Where they are going to give it like the stock account for the kids.
I am so like
minus Michael Dell's wife. Can we exclude her from
yeah,
this?
my minus his poor wife. God, dude, I don't know what was up their eyes on that video. Like they real and the thing is that's like the shoot they chose to use. Like they probably did that multiple times.
Right.
But so I'm curious your guys' views are on it, because I mean, despite the fact that it's called the Trump account and I hate him and everything else, I fundamentally disagree with what they are doing with it, because I think it is an excuse to take taxpayer dollars and put it into the publicly traded stock market, with the intent being to promote the stock market, which, yes, I guess it gives an opportunity to the people that qualify for those accounts, but it's so small compared to the billions and billions of dollars that are going to be generated for the people that are already the ultra rich, right? And in my mind, it's their way of like masking something as a good deed, when really it's them just sort of like padding their own portfolio.
It's a 401. It's expanding the 401k, right?
But yeah, but they're funding it with taxpayer money, right? Like, so they're taking money out of the federal budget and they're giving it to all these people. Yeah. Because like the people that have these accounts, you don't get a say in what's invested in, right? The Trump account holder, that whatever the company is that manages it, they get to choose where the money goes. So they could literally take all those dollars and say, like, you know what, we're going to invest everyone in fucking Trump Industries, whatever it is.
Right.
And there's nothing you can do about it, but you said, thank you, I'll take my $1,000.
So I only halfway believe that. I don't know that would be true, right? There's got to be some custodian stuff, right? Because they can't just like control money, but like that. I believe to some extent they can.
Theoretically,
but I feel like that's like the extreme version of it.
Mm-hmm.
My question is then, because I don't know, and this is why I'm asking, so where does Michael Dell come in and donating what is like $6.25 billion? So are they accepting donations to do this? To like, I don't know how this is going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is that just a random philanthropic thing?
I mean, so same thing. It goes to them being at that end of the spectrum, right? If they're heavily invested, they are going to have an incentive to be, having all this public tax generated money to go into something, right? Like do they know where the money's going to go? And they're kind of like, oh yeah, well, we're going to give this donation and it'll like prop up whatever. I have no idea. How they're involved. I don't know. Like their whole donation thing kind of put this on the map for me to like start looking into it a little bit more.
Yeah. I didn't actually know it actually was happening until this. You're right. Till this happened.
Yeah.
I thought Trump had talked about it, but I didn't know that they were actually going to do it.
Yeah. And as I looked into it, it just feels so shady to me. And like a big part of it is the fact that I believe that everything that this administration does is crooked in some way. I think everything every administration does is crooked in some way, but they're like the most.
Well, so you go back to the give a good example from the Biden administration, so you can counterbalance this argument. Like let's steelman this a little bit. Is like, okay, Biden wanted to pay everybody's college debt off. Would that not be a similar thing? 100%.
I so heavily disagreed with that in the exact same way. It does not make fundamental sense because that money has to go somewhere.
It has to come from somewhere too.
Yeah, totally. And so now we're taking taxpayer dollars to give to these people that got fucking underwater basket weaving degrees. Doesn't make any sense. It's
so I'll share my opinion on it, and I'll let Dylan jump in because I know he's going to have a much better opinion on this. I think the idea, whether it's taxpayer dollars or not, I don't really know like the extent of how much taxpayer dollars are in. I think it's a great idea to help with like, especially with the lower income youth, to have something, because I do think if you graduate high school and you have $2,000 in an account, like that's a huge help for kids that have never seen that kind of money in their life. And maybe they use it to go start a trade. Maybe they go blow it on drugs, whatever. Right. I don't know. But like, I do think the idea of that is great. And I think for anybody with kids, like being able to open up an account, I don't agree with the whole tax advantage account stuff. I think whatever, that's just not my opinion.
It's also, also isn't tax advantage. It's just tax delayed. So you pay taxes at full rate when you pull it out.
Okay. Which is like it's a miniature it's a 401k for kids, right? Yeah. So it's like same thing, but like, that an account that people can donate money to for like, hey, I don't want you to buy my kids presents, just give them money in their account or whatever you want. Like, I think that's a great novel idea that some people have already done in their personal lives. I don't ever agree with the government needing to fiddle with the private markets. So from that standpoint, I'm like, I think that's bullshit. I tend to agree with what you're saying is it's another way to funnel money into the stock market for business. That's what all these retirement accounts really have become.
Yeah.
Dylan.
I don't really have much to add other than like I'm pretty my political bent is libertarian at most times, it's not like a full blown thing, but the less government, the better. So if the money has to come from somewhere, I'd rather it come from private parties like the Dale family. But you know, then you question, are they just getting a whole $6.25 billion tax write off? You know, who knows?
For sure.
But
right.
And then on top of that, like, I don't even like the 401ks for the same reason. You're very limited on what you can invest in on those things too. Yeah. So
and you're forced to do shit with them that you don't want to do, like RMDs and all that stuff.
But I mean, the other side of this is like the kids who currently have nothing and they see this, if it sparks interest in investing or gives the kids some kind of agency to like, oh, I do have a little bit of hope. I have a little bit of head start. Like maybe there's some good to that. It's not a binary thing. So you know,
well, one of the things I do find quite interesting is I've seen so many people that I'm friends with on Facebook, different things that are so pro this, that were so anti the whole food stamp thing being of Thanksgiving.
It's like, such a funny thing.
It's the same shit. And they were like, good, all these people losing their food stamps need to get a fucking job. And then they're like, hell yeah, now we're giving money to kids to invest. Because it's still a handout.
You want to know why? You know what? Here's my logic on that. Why they think that is. I think that's naturally the argument is because it feels more productive than just giving people to sit on the couch and eat food. Like that's what people are thinking with food stamps. Sure. The problem is that like, and we see it in Spokane, I've seen it personally, is there's definitely a lot of people with food insecurity and all that other bullshit that they actually do need. These like kids that go to school without food, right? Yeah. And when you put it in those terms, it's easy for the government to implement things wherein you put a little bit of social like ethic into it. Like, oh, but we're going to help all these people and it's going to be great. And you're like, God damn it, you're right. I would love to help these people. But really, at least one or two people are going to be siphoning money off and making money and benefiting from this.
So that, like, the biggest donors of the EFTs are the Coca-Colas, the Hostess cookies, right? It's the people that, this could be beneficial for the healthcare system because all these people are going to be overweight and sick and have chronic diseases. Yeah. And why subsidize the poor eating habits of other people?
Well, not only that, but those kind of things, right? If you think about like a Coca-Cola, the cost to produce junk food like that is so minuscule. Yep. And so, they're basically just using government dollars to generate them a profit. Even if
they donate it back for a tax break and then you reinvest that money into their company.
It's all a fucking racket.
The good thing about being libertarian is you hate big corporations too. Like,
there you go.
You don't like them just as much as you don't like the social.
The only time where like the libertarian argument breaks down for me is like, oh, you don't like roads?
Exactly.
Right. Like You're right. No, exactly. And you can't be a full blown. But what you're describing is anarchy. That's like no government, right? Like there's a difference.
And then once you get tired of being a libertarian, Dylan, you'll just be like me and you'll become a cynic and you'll just hate everything.
Just hate everything, everybody.
So,
well, let's turn it back to a different conversation.
Let's. So one thing I want to talk about to wrap up the show here, you had some notes that you sent us. And I guess, how do you want to present this around your Thunderdome? Do you want to put people on blast? Or
I won't. No, I mean, obviously they're going to listen to this, but it's good. It's good for the general public. And of course I won't name anybody by names, but me and I would say some, operators have been in the business for a while, and we're sitting there and we're going over things that what worked in 2025. What do we want 2026 to look like? Challenges, what worked, what didn't, and why are we all doing this in the first place? Are you setting goals? And the first people that went, they have a ROAS, return ad spend, ending from like 2 to 3x, or they made a little bit of money. They're afraid to spend more marketing dollars. And when we got to the end of it, some of my questions, or I challenged them on is, well, how many hours a day or a week are you working on the business? And the answers range from, I don't know, 2 to 4, 6, like 4 to 6 sometimes. And I told them, like, I'm sorry to be blunt, but like, I just think you need to work more. Like your numbers would just support doing more of what you're already doing. Mm-hmm. And that same conversation happened 2 or 3 times. And it's funny. One of the members was like, well, I know what Dylan's going to say next. So like, I don't know. It's just, I got to the point where it's like, if you want to succeed, especially in this business, but in any business, you just got to put in the hours.
Work.
Yeah. And people don't like that because I think a lot of people get into business to have more freedom. Unfortunately, right, achieving basic freedom is honestly not that challenging once you have the momentum, right? And once you kind of understand how to create money and create value, it's relatively simple to replace an average W-2 job, right? It's not easy. I would say like the first, especially like year and a half, 2 years are really, really challenging because you don't know how to do that yet. But once you know,
what's the average income? What did you say? 70 grand?
What is 70 grand? Yeah. Like figuring out how to make $70,000 in like a business or like side hustling is not hard to do once you kind of understand the basics. But if you want to make like real money, you want to make $500,000 a year, you want to make $1 million a year, you want to make several $1 million a year. Yet you are not going to do that working 4 hours a day, 3 hours a day, until you've learned how to make $100 million, right? Then you can probably be leveraged enough that you can get away with working like that little bit and make that kind of money.
And some of them were like, I like to go rock climbing, or I did this during the week. I like the flexibility. I was like, if that's the lifestyle you want to live and you can recognize that, that's fine. But you can't just sit here and say you want to make more money or you're worried about money when the trade-off is just trading your time for money. That's what it is. Like,
dude, this is literally why Dan and I decided to break it off with our previous partner, was because the situation was exactly what you described, where there was always these complaints about wanting to make more money and different things. But then there was like, it was very important to me that I get to play golf 2 times a week, that I can do all that sort of things. And, you know, Dan and I are working like dogs. We're doing stuff in the evenings, on the weekends, you know, and even though, like, I think where people get stuck is they want to spend the money-making hours doing the shit that is not money-making. Right. And so
it's a flex to say, I'm getting my haircut Tuesday at 11 o'clock.
Totally.
Right? Like,
but also during like the workday, during like the hours when it's appropriate to call sellers, when you should be, you know, like engaging with buyers, doing different things where you will actually make money. They're like doing their bookkeeping. They are going and filing, you know, their new LLC entity. They're doing like a training for their VA, right? Or they're creating like videos about like how to do stuff for their new VA. All that shit, that's what you get to do after work. That's your 5 to 9 to build your 9 to 5 business.
Yep.
Right. And a lot of people don't understand that. And you need to spend the actual money making hours doing money making activities, and all of the business stuff. That is the things that gets to become your new hobby, whether you like it or not.
You better learn to love it, because you're going to be doing a lot of it. Totally. I would say, I think the challenge with especially with our generation of real estate investors is that we were all told this, like, I don't know if it's a lie or just like a story of like, oh, you get into real estate, passive income, then you can have freedom. I personally never, like, I didn't get into real estate ever thinking like, oh, I'm going to not ever have to work again. Like, I was like, I'm going to be more rich. Like, this is going to be cool. Yeah. Like, I want to be more rich. And so for me, I've never had that, like, I just don't want to work today, or I want to be able to do whatever until noon. It's just not my style, but I can understand where people get that from, because that's what that's the dream everybody's selling them. But it's like, at some point in time, you're just being lazy, and you need to recognize that. And you said it perfectly, Dylan. It's like, if that's what you want and your income, the income you have allows you to live that lifestyle, that is perfectly okay. Like, that's your thing. But if you want to double it up, triple it up, like, you're going to have to work really hard. And I know all 3 of us do that.
I think it's just being honest about what your priorities are. You know, I think a lot of people that have that kind of like lifestyle, right, where they can go rock climbing on a Tuesday or whatever, there's like a societal pressure to be like working more that they probably feel, or like they are in these different entrepreneur groups and people are making more money and there's a little bit of envy there, right? And so they feel like they need to be like that, but they don't compare apples to apples. You know, it's like comparing, you know, yourself to a professional athlete, and you're like, man, why aren't I as good at basketball as them? It's like, well, they've been playing for 25 years. They're naturally gifted. They've done like put in thousands and thousands and thousands of hours, and you play rec league at YMCA once a week. Like, you're just not going to be the same.
They said this is my one thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
You know?
There's a guy here who's worth a lot of money. He's been doing this a long time, commercial real estate. But his thing is like, I meet someone new, I give them a pretty extensive homework assignment. 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, I don't ever hear from them again. Totally. And that's his filter, right? You know, so like that, and it works. The other side of that spectrum, there's a guy that went first who's killing it. Let's say this, killing it. His return ad spend is, you won't believe me if I told you. He's done like 4 deals, all flips, made almost $400,000, and he still has a full-time W-2. And he's sitting there, and the way he's just projecting with his numbers, there's a sense of lack of confidence in the way he's presenting. And everyone at the end, me included, was like, bro, if what you're saying is accurate and you don't need the benefits because your wife's got a nice W-2, you should quit 6 months ago and like just go full. Imagine what you do with 40 hours a week of what you're doing now. Right. And I hope he takes the advice. You know, I don't know if he will, but there's 2 ends of that, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. You know, and ultimately, if you want to make more money, like, there's the one thing that everyone has is hours, right? That's such a cliche, but the people that put in more of them will on average come out better.
Yeah. And you know, be efficient with your hours too.
I know. And that's the thing, is actually like being productive with them, and then not doing, like I said before, where you're spending those money making hours doing other stuff, you know, and it's funny, like, you see like a lot of people rip on this hustle culture because it sort of contradicts like what actually matters in life and everything else. I think ultimately what matters in life is what matters to you. And you just need to decide what that is and then accept it, and understand that everything in life has some kind of trade-off. If you're going to have more flexibility, you're going to make less money. If you're going to make more money, you're going to have less flexibility, at least for right now. Yep. And just embrace it and then do what you need to do. And you can't be,
Don't throw labels on yourself. If you say I'm a hustler, I'm a real estate investor, you're going to be tied to that identity and you're going to hate yourself in a couple of years. Don't be afraid to change that label. So
that's great advice.
So there you go. All the Thunderdome people that Dylan met with, figure shit out. That's all I'm going to say. Right on, guys. Anything else to wrap up?
I'm good.
I am good.
Cool. Right on, guys. Thanks for listening. You guys have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you guys next time.
See ya.
This episode is sponsored by Sir Lancelot LLC, also known as SLA Capital, which, if you didn't know, is Dan and I's private lending company. So yes, we are sponsoring our own show, but what you going to do about it? It is our private lending company that offers hard money and DSCR loans to real estate investors of all types. So you can be a new investor, an experienced investor. You can be buying flips. You can be buying rentals, whatever. We can do everything. And not only that, but the rates that we offer are just as competitive, if not cheaper, than pretty much every other company out there. So whatever big company you've been working with, bring us their term sheets and I guarantee you that we can probably beat it. We have the same connections they do. We just don't have all the overhead and middlemen. So if you want to come and check us out, go to slacapital.com/keys and I will know that you came from the show. And by seeing that you came from here, when you get to closing, you will save $500 on your first loan with us. So slacapital.com/keys, we would love to fund your next deal.